Thank you guys. Welcome. Just a quick note, I have two screens and my deck is on the second screen. So larger screen, which is very convenient. So I'll be picking. So I'm Maria and I'm very delighted and honored to introduce our guest speakers, who I'm sure you know, Lisa Barnes, Vice President of Research and Development. Lisa, it's a real honor to meet you in person, well, virtually. Dr. Sveta, Senior breast cancer pathologist, certified in anti-aging and regenerative medicine. Sveta, thanks for joining. It's always a pleasure to have you on our calls. So, welcome. I'm very excited, guys, to do it. And Lisa, I wanted to say again, it's an honor to meet you. And I would like to begin by asking, you joined LifeVantage as Chief Science Officer, Vice President of Research and Development. Why LifeVantage, and what's kind of um sparked your interest in joining this company?
That's a great question. And thank you, Maria, for having me on here. As much as I really feel the love, so I appreciate it. And I always love to get to go on these and get to have conversations. Because sometimes, especially when I've been in the office too much, I need to connect with the real world. And so this is my connection with the real world, and I appreciate it. And so it's been a little over 3 years since I came over to LifeVantage. It's kind of felt like a whirlwind, but what led me to LifeVantage? Because I was at another company prior and I was growing in my career there and like pretty much happy. I loved the people I worked with, and it was going to take something big to move me because I'm a person that's very loyal. Once I find somewhere, I will stay there unless there is a real reason to move. And there was this opportunity brought to me, and it was LifeVantage. And first of all, I looked at it and I was like, I don't know what this company is. And so I was like, let's start Googling because I'm one of those people that if I cannot align myself with a company's values, if I cannot speak enthusiastically about a company, if I can't go wholeheartedly into a role, it's not the one for me. I cannot do it whatsoever. And so I wanted to ensure that every time that I would speak about LifeVantage, if I was to join, that I could do it unapologetically, that it could be authentic and come straight from the heart, because that's just key to my values. And so as I started digging into LifeVantage, I was like, well, first of all, I loved the size of the product portfolio. There were thousands of products, and that's really rare in this industry. You go and they've created every product known to man, and you're like, what am I even going to do here? I'm just going to reformulate some products or reposition them, but there was no room for innovation. But with the size of the portfolio at LifeVantage, there was so much room to create. So that creatively just excited me. The other thing that I loved is as I dug into Protandim Nerve 2 in particular, because that's where I started, it made sense. I was, what is this? With so many studies, 30 plus studies behind it, all the stuff in the patent, the really methodical approach to creating that product, which is so unique in this industry. I was like, this is a unicorn product. Like, when will you ever come across something that has been this studied, this tested, this lauded? And then I went and had my interview at the company because that was enough to spark my interest because I'm like, they're doing some serious science over here. And I went in, and at the time, our chief marketing officer, Julie Boyster, I talked to her about her vision, and there was a very clear vision for the company. We were going to be the activation company. That was going to be our differentiator. That would mean that we were going to create products that were going to truly not just be supplements, but they were going to really activate and empower the body to do the things and create the things it needs for health. And not only were they just going to say that, because that could be just catchy marketing, but they were actually going to put the research dollars behind it. During my interview, they talked about, what have you done with clinical research? What have you done with patents? Dug very deep into that. And I was like, oh, maybe they're serious about this. And so I took the leap of faith. But what I've really appreciated since I've been here is that everything that I heard and was told during my interview was exactly what it was here, right at face value. There was this focus on activation. There was this appreciation and prioritization of science. And a lot of companies will say that, to be honest. But when it actually comes to, you show them a protocol for a study and you're like, okay, please give me 150,000 US dollars to be able to do this clinical or more, they're going to be like, we don't like science that much. Maybe we'll just talk about the ingredients a little bit more. But what I've always seen here at LifeVantage is when I've proposed something, be it a cell study, be it mRNA sequencing and looking at where synergies could, like where they could exist between products, human clinical study, I'm always met with, let's do this. Let's proceed forward, acknowledging the history. And so that meant a ton to me. So all of those pieces are what brought me to LifeVantage and also what has kept me here and kept me excited about this role.
Thank you, Lisa. That's amazing. And yeah, it's rare to find a company when your values aligned with company web values and vision. And uh, it's just, yeah, it's we spend a significant time at work, right? Probably more time than we spend with our families. So
Mhm. Yeah, you want to make sure
yeah,
there's that connection. And one thing I've also appreciated too is with a lot of companies, you never have a conversation with the CEO.
yeah,
Or if you do, it's so guarded and they kind of look down their nose at you. And what I really appreciate here at LifeVantage is the amount of converse. And now I'm reporting directly to Steve, so that's a little bit easier to have conversations. But even before then, like we just could talk all the time and I could bring any ideas to him and he was always very open and genuine. And the person that you see on stage who has conversations with you is the person that comes into the office with us, which once again, that aligns with my values and I'm spending a ton of time here. So I want to make sure that the people I'm working with are people that I trust and people that I align with their vision moving forward with the company.
amazing. And the people who listen to you and, follow your expertise like he has. So, Dr. Sveta, I would like to ask you about something that you mentioned in one of your interviews. So, when you joined LifeVantage, the medical community started with 6 doctors, if I'm correct. And since then, the group has grown to include hundreds of medical doctors, naturopaths, chiros, internal medicine specialists. And today they share their expertise and knowledge. And it's my understanding that this growth started when Lisa joined the company. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, Lisa definitely contributed to that growth because what she brought into LifeVantage. Indeed, we actually started with 6 physicians, and then we kind of amalgamated into a whole bunch of different Ds, veterinarians, chiropractors, naturopathic doctors, medical doctors, PhDs, pharmaceutical doctors, you name it. But the interesting thing is what attracts now to the community is the concept which is called functional medicine, the concept which is called integrative medicine. Because what we need to do, that's my approach. In medicine, you need to be proactive. Well, that's what I believe. You need to be proactive other than retroactive because it's so much easier to prevent the disease or get on a healthy pathways as opposed to basically correct the disease. So the interesting part, and that's exactly the credo of LifeVantage. It's not that we, let's put the statement, we don't prevent, cure, or mitigate disease, but we acting proactively. So, and then when you start looking into medicine, into allopathic medicine, you're talking about drugs, you're talking about synthetic chemical composition, as opposed to anything per se what LifeVantage brings. It's a natural ingredients. Well, natural is different from natural. Natural chicken, conventionally raised, what they call natural chicken, is not exactly natural. Sorry, in my world, it has to be free range organic. However, when I talk about the natural ingredients in LifeVantage, these are plant-based ingredients, either plant-based ingredients or yes, or animal-based ingredients like we have the liquid collagen peptides. And now the credo of why per se my head goes to Lisa, because when she jumped into LifeVantage, she brought something that is uh, well, maybe the flavor of the month into the whole medical world, nutraceutical world, functional medicine world. Let's say, like everybody's on collagen bandwagon, everybody is on GLP-1 bandwagon. However, what she brings on board is how the products are concocted. And for me, why do I follow her and why we connect so much? Because I go into the depth of she brings the ingredients, I go into the depth of the cells. I looked into mechanism of the cellular mechanism, into the it's called the physiological pathophysiologic way the cells operate. And for the cell, it's so much easier to recognize the natural component and the way it is a process, the way it is extracted. Now, what happened when Lisa was brought on board, I don't know, there are so many newbies. We started cleaning the garbage out of the products, quote unquote garbage. The maltodextrin is gone. The something like potato starch is gone. There are other ingredients that are gone because what she's standing for, she's optimizing. She promised to us when she was hired, she actually promised to us to clean the products. Not only she cleaned the products, but when you start looking at two flagship products, well, on my end, because now I'm off medical advisory board, so I don't particularly know what's happening in the cooking. But in my time, what happened in the cooking, there was two flagship products, which is an MB or the regimen of GLP-1 activation with the natural way, which is extremely important because I'm bombarded with the questions of GLP-1 in different diseases. And then she also brought on board something that is called liquid collagen peptides. And you need to understand that liquid collagen peptides are entirely different from the collagen. So that's why the credibility of Lisa Barnes is amazing. So I think we should probably give her time to start talking about the global or Canadian formulation of MB, unless Maria, you have something else before?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about the global formula. And the product had significant uptake in the United States, UK, Japan, Australia, and we're now in Canada. So yeah, I wanted to know about the product, the global formula, and uh, what kind of approach you use to ensure that the formula is both effective and also meets the compliance regulation in different countries, right? And especially, I'm sure you came across with the fact that health regulations in Canada are
Health
pretty
Canada.
stringent, right? So you have to be overseen by Health Canada oversight. So, yeah, talk to us about first
Yeah.
importance of GLP-1 and the formula.
Yeah, I would be glad to. Oh, go ahead, Sveta, real quick.
And
I see
because I
you.
want to say thank you to you, because as a proud Canadian, even speaking with a Russian accent, I honestly believe that the global formulation, our Canadian formulation, is better than American. So thank you for that because it is such a beautiful, clean formulation. It's all yours.
Okay, well, first, what I want to say is I'm kind of in a unique role because not only am I over our research and development team, I'm also over our regulatory team. So both of them report into me. And so that allows me to have the unique lens of really understanding the regulations that go into these international markets so that when we craft formulas, we're making sure we craft them optimally. Now, there's an approach that a lot of companies take when they're moving formulas internationally. They start with the US formula, they look at it, they review it worldwide, and then either they try to create individual formulas for each market, which allows them to not have the resources to be able to test them all, or they just strip out ingredients from the US formula and then just distribute that globally. So you get a watered down formula. So either a watered down formula or one that is not tested. Now, one of the things that I made really clear when I came in is that I wanted to treat all of the international markets just the same way that I would treat the US, because the US is just one region of the world. Now, obviously, right now it's the biggest part of our business, but that doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way forever. The opportunity for growth comes internationally. And if we don't give the teams internationally the right tools, then we are not going to be able to grow the way that we want to. So our approach when we create an international formula is a lot of times we're starting with our US formula, which we've done all of our research to do, and we identify what doesn't work. We remove those because we do need to, but we don't stop there. We identify what was the function of the ingredients that we removed. We then do a ton of research, starting at the cellular level, to determine what are the appropriate replacement ingredients for it. We look at how all those ingredients function together, because when you put ingredients together, there's three things that can happen. First, you just see what I call 1 + 1 = 2. You get the benefit of the first ingredient, benefit of the second ingredient, no more, no less. It's okay, but it's not enough. Secondarily, you can actually see them negatively interfere. So you put them together and you actually see less benefit. That's why you got to test. Third, you see synergies. And that's where we live with our LifeVantage product, is with the synergies, but you got to test to ensure you're getting the synergies. So as we identify those replacement ingredients, we're testing different blends for international to determine what is the strongest. But we also don't stop there, because that's just cells. It gives you mechanism of action, but it does not definitively prove that it will do that in the human body. So you got to take that extra step, and we always do. And so then we moved into, actually, even before we went to human clinical, we performed some internal studies, nothing we base claims off of, but we wanted to say, okay, with this new formula, what are people experiencing? And a lot of them had been on the US formula. We wanted, how did your experience compare? How were your cravings quieted? How did this look? We got all that feedback to make sure we had the right formula before we spent the big bucks for the clinical. Then we did go into the clinical research, and I'll go into a little bit more. I have some slides too that I can share of some of the specific clinical data, starting from the cells all the way through. But that's how we do it. And we ensure that every step along the way, that this is the strongest formula, and it's on par, or as Sveta was saying, or even better than its US the other US formula. Because once again, incredibly important. I always love Sveta's reactions
I
with
know.
all
Whatever
the
she does,
fireworks and
right?
everything. She always makes me feel really strong and powered. Okay. So then going specifically into this mind-body system, when you're taking it, because with our activation approach, which makes us different, like I was talking about earlier, you're taking things to make what your body needs for health. With Protandim NRF2, you're taking it to make antioxidants like glutathione. With our collagen, you're not only supplementing with a very high quality mixture of collagen peptides, you're making your own collagen. That's why it's so demonstrable and so powerful. So with this product, this system of two products, you are taking it to make GLP-1. And so can I go ahead and share my screen real quick? I have some slides that I'll go ahead and walk through.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay,
You can just take over.
let me just take over real quick. Share. We'll go here. Let me make this full screen first. Excuse me for a second, because I think it'll be a little bit more powerful. Get through a few, and then I'll share if I walk through what this is. Actually, and I'm going to step back for a second. Okay, let me now switch over. I have the multiple screens too, so I got to make sure I'm sharing all the right things. Okay.
You can stop sharing.
Yeah, I can stop. Yep.
Yep, perfect. And I'm actually going to start here real quick, because this kind of goes to the root of why we do activation. And Sveta was talking about this very beautifully, and it's a big part of integrative medicine, is that you're looking at the entire person and you're looking at the root cause. Because so often we see that there's just a symptomatic approach to supplements and other products. You have a problem, let's just try to take care of what you're experiencing, but it's never going to the root. And so what we know is that if you have healthy cells, it builds to healthy tissues, healthy organs, healthy systems, and a healthy body. And so if we can take care of the cell, then we are truly getting to the root of what is going on. That's that take it to make it philosophy. And that's what brings us, come on, flip my slide. That's why being the activation company is so important. This is mimicking Sveta's fireworks. That's why it's so important. And when we talk about activation, we're talking about the take it to make it. We're empowering your body to make the things, either the antioxidants, the proteins, the peptides, the enzymes, what it needs for health. And that's what makes it so different and so powerful, because what your body makes is perfectly tailored for it. So that's what makes it so powerful. And then we have multiple activators. We'll be focusing specifically, I mean, I talked about the Nerf2, the collagen. The P84 is on NFR. So it's something we can talk about another day. But the focus today is really on this MB system and how incredible it is. And for each of those, we have a very specific like audience for it. Nerf2 is for those who want to age powerfully. Collagen's for those who want that outward structure and shine, and they just want to move well, and so much more. With MB, it's going to be those who want to control the cravings, and we'll dive more into that. And then P84 is that gut, so it's a second brain, so it's all over health. So then I'm going to skip through these real quick because I want to stay focused on MB. So with MB, you're taking it to make GLP-1. What we know is that GLP-1 is intricately linked to how your brain and your gut communicate. And when that communication is out of whack, we see a lot of negative effects. So let's first start. What is GLP-1? GLP-1 is glucagon-like peptide 1. It is produced in specialized cells called L cells that are found in the lower small intestine and colon. And on the right side here, you see a little bit, because I'm a nerd and I love seeing all of the progression. You see the cells here are your L cells. In your L cells, there's something called proglucagon that is produced. That then gets cleaved into multiple smaller peptides, including GLP-1. And so if you don't have proglucagon, you're not going to have GLP-1. And you also need to have a receptor for GLP-1 to bind to. All of this will be important as we talk about the mechanism of action for the MB system. And so all of those need to happen. And there also is, here there is an enzyme. Let's go back, sorry. I got excited. There's an enzyme called DPP4 that breaks it down. So that also plays into this equation. Now, this GLP-1 hormone naturally declines over time. Multiple factors, poor diet, lifestyle choices, and then just natural aging. Because we know everything starts sliding out of balance as we age, which is why activation is so important, because otherwise, all of these things that you experience, because as a result of everything going out of balance, you would just think is normal aging. But with activation, you're able to bring things back into balance so that you can, so age is just a number. It's not indicating how you must feel. And so let's go into what GLP-1 does. So it's a hormone, like I mentioned. It's helping to restore communication across that gut-brain axis that leads to reduced hunger signals, craving control, increased satiety, because now your brain knows what, like, oh, your gut is satisfied. So yeah, we can be satisfied. We don't need to crave anything else. It slows the rate at which food leaves the stomach, so you stay full longer. It's integral in blood sugar regulation, cardiovascular health, reducing oxidative stress. There's actually, we've seen that if you have increased GLP-1, then that will lower your oxidative stress, and lower oxidative stress and increased NRF2 actually increases GLP-1s. There's a nice little play there with our Protandim NRF2, which is also a beauty of all our products, is that you never can just think of them singularly. You always have to think of them how they all work together, and we always test how they work together and show the synergies of that, which is something that also makes us unique. We also see it influences mood, neuroprotection, liver, kidney, pancreatic health. Obviously, they keep studying this hormone more and more, and a lot of it comes from the pharmaceutical industry because they're very interested in it. But the halo to us is we are learning a lot about this hormone and how integral it is to overall health. And when it's out of balance, you're going to feel hungry all the time. So you're going to have those cravings for sugars or carbs, the wrong things. You're going to have energy dips, restlessness. You can feel those shakes and heart pounding. It can be really hard to feel satisfied, and then ultimately you're feeling out of control. And so the root problem that is happening are these out of balance lower GLP-1 levels. So if we're going to take our activation approach, that was what we need to focus on. Now, obviously there are other hormones that work along the gut-brain axis, and we look at those as well. But GLP-1 was the big hormone, partially because what Sveta was saying, it is something that people are flocking to and very recognizable. So it's a nice hook to get them in. as we're influencing all of these processes along your gut-brain axis. And we'll talk more about what those hormones are and how we influence them in the study that we did. But let's talk about why there are two products, because that's the right question to ask when you see a system. There shouldn't just be two products to be two products. I mean, I know a lot of companies, you want to say, oh, the more products, the more money. But for us, we want to make sure it's the right products that are activating things in the right way. And to be really honest, when we started this project looking at activation of GLP-1, we started with 5 products. And we're like, let's have one that does this and this and this and this. And then we just sat down and had a let's all chat. Because 5 products is ridiculous. So how can we get it down to the products that truly matter for this GLP-1 activation? We went down from 5 to 2. And the reason we have 2 is because they have 2 very distinctive mechanisms of action. And one thing that I'm very passionate about with formulation, and we're continuing to do this as we have new products in our pipeline, is ensuring that we never approach a problem through just one mechanism of action. Because if you do that, you can help some, but you're not having this broad coverage of impacting your target. So the more mechanisms of action, the more likelihood that you're actually going to be able to address the issue and truly impact more people. So at the end of the day, we want to help people. That's why we're creating these products, and we want to make that influence as big as possible. So let's start first with the MB core, because we have this word up here that's dual activation. It means we're activating in 2 ways. With MB core, direct activation. The ingredients within the capsules are going straight to your L cells, stimulating them to produce GLP-1. Then we have indirect activation through MB enhance. That we say indirect because it's not directly stimulating the L cells like core. It is instead working through the microbiome. Because if you feed the microbiome the right food in the colon, then the beneficial bugs will begin to flourish. You'll get more imbalance, and they're going to produce things called short chain fatty acids. And one that we've very specifically focused on is butyrate. You know what butyrate does? It goes over to those L cells and stimulates them to make GLP-1. So not only are we directly stimulating the cells to make GLP-1, we're creating the right environment to be able to enhance, thus the name, GLP-1 production. Once again, a much more holistic approach. And so you're activating in 2 ways. And then this dual amplification is not only do we want to just create more GLP-1, there's things that have to happen for GLP-1 to work. First of all, you need receptors, like a lock into a key. If you just have GLP-1 floating around, it's not finding receptors, no activity. That's just how it works. That's how hormones have to function. And so we saw with this and developed it to increase GLP-1R, which leads to more receptors for GLP-1. So one way of amplifying the effects. Secondarily, we also saw that these 2 products together decrease DPP-4, that enzyme that I mentioned that looked like a little Pac-Man from video games, that deplenishes GLP-1. Because we want to ensure that when you create it, that it doesn't just get chewed up and destroyed. We also want to ensure it finds a receptor to be able to have the function. So that allows us to have a holistic mechanism of action of dually activating it and then amplifying it in these 2 different manners, which makes it so effective. Now, kind of going into a few of the claims, once again, this goes into the regulatory environment, Health Canada. We can talk about energy metabolism and supporting the body's ability to metabolize nutrients and then protecting the cells against oxidative damage. But obviously, there's much more that this product can do. And one thing we do with Health Canada is we're always working with them as we get more and more clinical evidence, is we always go back to them and be like, and now we want to add this, and now we want to add this. So more in the works with this as we look to the future, but this is where we're starting with our claims, but you're hearing the entire story of how this works. So that's kind of the mechanism of action. Let's go into what the proof is, because that's where I always get excited. So let's start first with cells, because that's where we start with our studies. We want to make sure that we understand how the products are working, because if we don't understand how they're working, then we're just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. We're not being very targeted in our approach. So we did in vitro work in L cells because that's our target cells. And we were specifically looking at some genes. So first of all, you see this GCG. GCG is a gene that encodes for proglucagon. Now remember, it's that larger peptide that is then broken into GLP-1. If you don't encode for that, you're not going to have more GLP-1. Now, it's kind of funny. When we were first launching in the US, there was a company talking about how it increased the gene for GLP-1 by however many percent. And Dr. Christina Beer and I just sat there and were like, what gene are they talking about? GLP-1, there's no gene that directly encodes for GLP-1. It has to be cleaved from proglucagon. You can influence GCG and create more of that, but you're not going to be able to just activate a gene that will automatically increase GLP-1. So it kind of just showed that the people who were marketing it just had no idea the science behind GLP-1. So we were just giggling behind our hands. But we're also like, this shows that we're so different because we do actually understand what's happening in the body here. And so we have to see this increase of GCG. So, okay, more proglucagon. Awesome. We also saw more GLP-1R. That's encoding for the receptor. Perfect. We'll be able to have the GLP-1 bind to the receptors because there'll be more receptors. We saw the DPP-4 go down. Exactly what we want to happen. Now, there has to be some DPP-4 because everything in the body is a balance. We never want to just turn something on all the way or turn something off all the way. That's not how the body works. It's more like a soundboard where you're dialing it in. And so we're dialing down the DPP-4 to ensure that we can have that GLP-1 stays around in the body a little longer to be able to find its receptor so it can have its effect. So going in the right direction. Now, this is something that was super incredible with this international formula is the boosting of PYY and PPY. These are two additional neuropeptides that go along that gut-brain axis that help to regulate your relationship with food and your hunger signals, and they are just through the roof. So we're just seeing that not only is this a GLP-1 product, this is truly a gut-brain axis product that is helping to optimize and repair that relationship starting at the hormonal level. And then we also looked at the L cells to see how much GLP-1 was increased, and the secretion was 122%, which was awesome. Right there, we're just like, perfect. We're doing exactly what we said. And the fluorescence you see here is part of how we quantify this. So the more green you got, the more GLP-1 that's being secreted. So we look at what was inside the cell as far as GLP-1 and then what's been secreted into the media as well. But that is 122%. So awesome. Now we needed to move to the next steps, and that's when we moved into our human clinical. We had a 12-week human clinical with more than 35 participants per arm, and we looked at 3 different types of data. We looked at the objectives, so we looked at blood. We also looked at subjectives, which we'll see on the next one, which is how people experience the product. And then we also looked at more of like body composition measurements just because of the type of product this was. So starting with our blood panel results, first we saw that there was an average 220% increase in GLP-1 in blood. So perfect connection to what we were seeing in vitro, showing it that it actually is translating to the human body and influencing their production of this hormone. Now, what was important to me is how this is going to tie into the next slide and the next slide, because it's not all about just increasing the hormone. We want to see everything else shift as a result from that, and we'll see that on the next slides. But this is the first thing we needed. We also saw, and this is just actually just super cool, we saw that 88% of subjects improved A1C by 0.5 units. Now, kind of a fun fact behind this study is everyone who started the study in a not so healthy range, in a pre-diabetic range, were able to move into a healthy range during the course of the study, which is incredibly powerful. We also saw an increase of GIP by 122%. So it's another peptide that works along that gut-brain axis that now a lot more of the drug companies are looking at because they're realizing, oh yeah, it can't just be about the GLP-1. You have to look at other hormones as well. So GIP-1 has been another target. We also saw the pancreatic polypeptide increase, and that's linked to the PPY and everything that you saw on the in vitro slide. So it made sense that that was increasing. And then we saw leptin increase as well. So we're seeing all of these hormones that work together synergistically along the gut-brain axis being influenced by this product. Perfect. We're seeing the hard, cold evidence. But then where it gets even more interesting for me is how people's experience was. So over the 12 weeks, we saw that 80% experienced decreased food cravings. That levered over to sugar cravings, alcohol cravings, soda cravings, fast food cravings. It's showing that it's not just about one type of craving. It's really about regulating your brain's reward center and ensuring that your body is actually craving the right things, the things that are healthier. And actually, that's a lot of the testimonials we hear from people on MB is that they're like, oh my goodness, I used to always, I needed my afternoon cookie, or I needed my afternoon whatever, my salty, my chips or whatever. But now I'm starting to crave, like, I'm craving vegetables now because that's what my body needs. And there's a little bit of a bummer with that. They're like, oh, now I don't have an excuse to eat the chips anymore. But their body's craving what it actually needs. And we saw that reflected in our clinical. We saw 91% experience decreased portion size at meals. So not completely losing their appetite, but being able to have more control. We saw decreased appetite. We saw more satisfaction. So there's not a deprivation that's happening here. It's more just a regulation of how the body actually should function. And then we saw people being able to resist snacking more, which is incredible. And because of this, because people experienced this and then made the right shifts in behavior, because I think what's important to note before we go any further is there is no product that's going to be a magic pill. There needs to be lifestyle changes, and we all know what we're supposed to be doing. It's not rocket science. There's other things there's health things that get in the way that make things trickier, but we know the lifestyle things we should be doing, the foods we should be eating, how we should be moving our body, the water we should be drinking. And it can be hard to do those things. And what I love about the MB system is that it's like a friend that comes along and kind of puts its hand on your shoulder and makes it easier because you're helping to balance this biological component that can be a hurdle to doing so many of these things. It removes that roadblock out of the way so that you can make the decision to do the things. Now, it's not going to be something that if you're holding that cookie in your hand, it's not going to come and smack it out of your hands. It's not that kind of friend. But it is going to empower you to be able to make that decision and be like, that's not actually what I want. I'm going to put it down. And so it does have to be coupled with lifestyle changes because I think that's where the danger is in a lot of products is if we're just like, I'm not going to do anything different. I'm going to do the things that I know are unhealthy, and then I'm going to expect this product to fix it. No, this product is activating, empowering your body, and you need to do these things because of that. And that's what's going to lead to this healthy, activated lifestyle. And so for these folks that listen to their bodies, experienced everything you're seeing here on the screen, they made the right decisions and shifted their lifestyle. And we saw these shifts in their body composition. We saw up to 8.6% body fat decrease. And of that, 8.1% subcutaneous fat decrease. That's incredibly important. Then the next one is even more important, this visceral fat decrease, 18.8%. That's that fat that's all around your organs that can cause so many health issues. And we saw muscle actually increase, which is very interesting, especially if you look at folks who are doing more synthetic GLP-1 options. We often see, because of the mechanism of action and how extreme it can be, people actually lose muscle because they only have so much appetite. They don't pick the right things to put in their body and they lose muscle mass. And so they're kind of losing weight in an unhealthy manner that's actually putting their body in a worse state. But with this, we actually saw increased muscle mass. So it meant that people were still able to eat the right things that allowed them to maintain and increase their muscle. They were able to have the energy to move their body and be able to work out and do things of that sort to be able to increase their muscle. They weren't at this deprivation that was leaving their body worse off than when it started. And then we also saw the associated weight loss with it. And so what was more important to me on this slide was really that shift in body composition. That's what made me so excited because we know that that's ultimately, you can have a number on the scale and you can be at completely different health levels. You could be 120 pounds and you could be mostly fat, or you could be mostly muscle. It's a number on a scale. It doesn't tell you much. What tells you more is body composition because it actually shows what's happening under the hood, what's happening in your body. And when we saw that here, it was phenomenal. Now, continuing on with the MB journey, because once again, as I said earlier, it's not just product. You need to make the choices as well. And so we have what we call our MB base, which is you got to be thoughtful as you enter into a routine with this. You need to identify habits and make adjustments, and we'll go into these a little bit more. You got to take the system consistently, and that's the same way with all of our products. And then you need to check in with yourself. There needs to be a mindfulness component to this. So if we start with the base, you need to first, it's the mind and body pieces. You need to ask yourself if you're actually hungry and notice what you're craving. Prioritize protein, because that's usually one of the first things to go when people's appetites are reduced. Prioritize that. It's going to help increase your satiety and shift your eating habits. With your body, you need to get moving. So you got to aim for exercise, purposeful exercise multiple times a week. You need to take the product consistently. MBCore, this one is very important. It is the first thing when you wake up on an empty stomach. Now, if you are a intermittent faster, there's other ways we can approach this because really it's all about you want to get this in 30 minutes before you put calories in your body because you want to get it where it needs to go before you add anything in. That's what is allowing this to work optimally. Then, so you're going to take those 2 capsules with water first thing in the morning, empty stomach, and then wait at least 30 minutes to consume MB Enhance or any other calories. When you take MB Enhance, add it with protein, at least 24 grams of protein. Now, why protein? First of all, just protein is incredibly important to prioritize that, as we talked about earlier, because that's going to help maintain your muscle. But also, what we've seen is that if people are not used to having fiber in their diet, and they just add a ton of fiber into their diet, which you do with MB Enhance, it's a good chunk of your fiber you need for your day. We see that people can actually feel hungrier initially. And the reason why is that they're getting fuller. If they're not prioritizing protein, their body's like, I'm only getting fiber. I'm missing out on the wide variety of nutrients I need. I need a balanced blend of protein, carbs, fats, all that to be healthy and fuel my body. It realizes something's missing and it's like sending signals of you need to get some quick energy fast. You need to put something that's calorie dense in your body because you don't have much room in your stomach. You're not very hungry, but you need to get something in there. How you can combat that is you just take protein with it. You make sure that you're feeding your body the right nutrients it needs, which is incredibly important to do. So we suggest the 24 grams of protein, and that allows you to stay full and satisfied and also balanced in your nutrients. And then when you get into your base, you got to check in with yourself. You got to look for the small changes. You got to see how am I feeling in my head? How is my relationship with food? How is that leading to changes in my hunger, my cravings? What is my body composition looking like? Once again, don't focus just on a number on a scale. That's meaningless at the end of the day. It's where is those body composition shifts happening? How's your sleeping? How's your energy? All of those pieces. And so this is also one that takes time. No magic pills. 12 weeks. Beauty of activation is you're working with your own body's processes. Those don't shift overnight. We don't want them to shift overnight. Huge shifts in biological processes in a very quick manner doesn't usually equal health. We want it to be measured and slow and steady and able to be sustained. So, because this is not a sprint, this is a marathon over the course of your life, keeping this hormone balanced and making these correct decisions. So this is one you do need to give the time to watch, to see how everything is adjusted as you use the product and as you start adjusting your lifestyle. Now, on top of this base, we also have what we call activation accelerators, which once again, it's those things you know you should be doing that now, because you have some of this biological barrier out of the way, it's a little easier to do, but you do need to consciously choose to do them. And so we have 10 of them. So it's all around it. Once again, none of these are going to surprise you. The protein, the hydration, avoiding the alcohol, ditching the refined sugar and processed foods, moving your body, strength training, working on those muscles, sleep, tracking, accountability, and then making sure that your meal timing is appropriate for whatever your goals are. And so what we suggest, and there's a little bit more on this next slide, I'm not going to go into all of it, but we have a lot of this information available connected to our website so that you can have access to this. We try to make it as easy as possible to be able to do this. And so the goal would be you take that base that I talked about, and then you start adding some of these. Don't try to add all 10 at once. You're not going to be successful. Just slow and steady. Add a few that you can do. Add it, make it your new routine. Add some more on top of it, and then slowly work your way into health. Because your body doesn't get a certain way in a day. It doesn't take a day to get back and kind of reverse that damage. So you need to give yourself time and take things one step at a time, one positive step at a time. And part of it also is just remembering that every body is different too. So some people may experience things immediately. Some people will take more time. It's completely fine because everyone starts at a different baseline. And that's that way with any of our activators. You're starting at a place, and that's your baseline. It's going to be your individual journey. You don't need to compare to anybody else. You need to be observant of what's happening in your own body because that's what your body needs. And so I think that's incredibly important because I think especially in the health space, we like to tend to compare. And I think we need to focus on our own journeys. And we cheer others along with us in their own journeys, but ultimately we track our own. So that's a lot of what I have. So I'll stop sharing, but that's kind of some of the thoughts behind it. That was the process of ensuring that we went thoroughly tested from the cells all the way to the double-blind placebo-controlled human clinical, and then kind of what that routine looks like to give these two formulas that have been very purposefully crafted to activate GLP-1 the best chance of influencing your health, especially if you are looking to lose weight.
Thank you, Lisa. And I have one more question about MB, GLP-1. Uh, about the flavor. I'm taking vanilla and it's absolutely delicious. So what do you do? What do you use to make it so delicious and taste?
Yeah. So actually it's very interesting. That's one of the differences we have between our US formula and our international formula. So US, it's sweeter, it's vanilla flavored, but when we went international, there's limits to how much stevia you can use. So we decided to keep it very low, and we used a lot of natural fruit juice powders like blueberry and cranberry to be able to give it some natural sweetness. So that's where the berry flavor is coming from. It's not an actual flavor that we've added in there. It's actually the natural ingredients we've added in there to help feed the microbiome that have the sweetness to it and flavor. So you're getting a very naturally flavored product, which is very unique in this space.
Thank you. Yeah, it's delicious. I'm actually using this is vanilla flavor. Can you guys see it?
Yes, I think that one's the US one, but then we have the US one, and then the Canada formula will have that slight berry taste to it, but both end up blending very well with different things. I love mixing it with chocolate protein is one that I love
Oh,
to
that's a
do.
good idea.
Yeah. And I think
Thank you.
one thing that
Yep.
going back, you had that slide up for a little bit. I just wanted to note that all the points on that slide are very US focused. So all of the information that I gave you earlier on is very specific to your formula as well. So
Awesome.
just
Thank you.
yes, which you'll notice that according to like when we did our initial US study, the GLP-1 was only 140%, but you noticed yours was over 200%, which is
Hmm.
awesome. So you can see
That's
how
it. That's
well
it.
it performed in our human clinical.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there anything you want to add?
I just want to say thank you. It was overwhelmingly amazing. Even for me as the medical doctor, it was amazing because one of the main conditions in Western medicine is called insulin resistance. And you ain't going to fight insulin resistance without GLP-1 activation. However, and that's a reason between us and synthetics, because synthetics only apply actually not even to GLP-1 activation, it applies to receptors. And that creates an issue. So having this multiplicity and basically having this natural propensity of working on the microgut, activating L cells, making more GLP-1, working on GLP-1 or other receptors. That is what is the difference is. That's why it's working so much better. That's why it's working so much better. And the composition, sorry, it's in the because that's the way the cells work. And not only the cells work, and because the microgut needs to be worked properly, it needs to be upregulated. So, to me, in a sense, the genius of this complex is incredible because it checks every necessary, sorry, it checks every necessary cellular markers. That's all it is. And when people say, oh, I need to lose weight, but GLP-1 activation is so much more than losing weight. That complex is so much more than losing weight. This complex is to make us healthier. It's not about the scale. It's about to make us healthier. And you need to understand one thing. When you take synthetic GLP-1s, you basically increase your oxidative stress. And that's a big problem. So when you have MB in togetherness with NRF2 per tandem, even without NRF2 per tandem, it's going to decrease oxidative stress because it applies to those mechanisms. But when you do it with synergistically with NRF2 per tandem, and that's what it is. So, but the numbers that Lisa showed us, the Canadian numbers or the global numbers, it's staggering. You know, when your brain can be upregulated by 2200 percent, like, hello, I would love my brain to stay active all the time. And that's a whole thing. That's why it's not just about the weight loss, it's about health. It's about the program of my commitment to my body, eating right, making it stimulates to make right choices, hitting the gym or hitting the walking trail or do something, or going on the stationary bike and drinking more fluid and working the microgut, this kind of things. Thank you so
Thank,
much.
thank you, Lisa.
You,
Thanks,
Lisa.
Sveta.
Not only thank you for this, but thank you for giving us time on December 19th, because I'm sure you have things to do and places to go on December 19th, which is
Just for you,
which
Sveta.
is 5 days before Christmas.
You're very welcome. I am always glad to hop on and talk about these products. They're my children. I feel incredibly proud of them and the amount of work my team has put into building these and validating them. That whenever I get a chance to have a discussion about them and really brag about them, I'm ready to jump on.
Thank you, Lisa.
You should be bragging about them. They worth to be bragged on.
Agreed.
100%. So let me just finish off with a few slides. So as you see, there are so much more products that Liz already mentioned and Sveta.
Hang on.
Yes,
So
Sveta.
basically, we probably can let Lisa go. And guys, on all of you and on behalf of Maria, I'm just thanking you from the bottom of my heart and wishing you and your family a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy and healthy New Year, and hope to see you soon.
Oh, thank you so much, friend. And thank you guys for having me. Love you
Lisa, thank you
guys
so
and talk to
much.
you again really soon. Have a wonderful Christmas and holiday season.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, so as we know, as you know, we all know we're activation nation, and we're not just focusing on activating our physical well-being, uh, but we also take steps to activate and strengthen our financial health. So there are many opportunities for growth, and I think Lisa mentioned that you can share the product, you can build and grow your own team, and our company has a very strong vision of success and strong leadership team. We started as a retail company in 2003 with 3 million in revenue. And I think today we're about over 230 million company uh, publicly traded on NASDAQ. And we have a lot of talented individuals in more than 20 countries, including 550,000 consultants. Our team includes, as we mentioned before, family physician specialists, different kind of specialists, yoga instructors, healers, and they believe in LifeVantage and share our products. This statement outlines our payout structure and includes the full disclosure. So please look at the green square. As you can see, you can start as a consultant and progress through different ranks. And as your rank increases, your commission and bonuses also increase. And once you reach the executive level, you will share a percentage of the company's sales revenue, and the earning potential is significant, as you see here. Basically, you start from $27 to $131,000. So, and there is no cap. Anything, Sveta, you want to add? I know we
This is
covered
no,
a lot.
that's okay. I entirely agree with you. The opportunity is amazing, and the opportunity is real, especially on the eve, the New Year's Eve. So, we always look on the New Year's resolutions, we look for a better future, better financial future for us, a better financial future in terms of our retirement, a better financial future for our children, and having LifeVantage to dig in and jump on board and be a part of our team and our family, I think is amazing. And, I welcome everyone. And as a team leader, we will support everyone in this endeavor. And again, people who join us on the Zoom, and especially to Maria, massive gratitude for organizing this beautiful event, connecting with Lisa. And guys, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, and absolutely happy and healthy New Year. Thank you so much. We love you dearly, and we welcome you to LifeVantage.
Thank you, guys. And Sveta, thank you, Sveta, for all your support and being part of this. Thank you.